In this video, we're going to be discussing a lot of NHL trade buzz. There's all kinds of speculation and rumors floating around about deals that could be made and are being discussed. I've got all the latest rumors and I'll give you my thoughts, and that's coming up next. Hey everyone, welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome. On this channel, we review and analyze all 31 NHL teams with an unbiased opinion, so if you love hockey, hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss anything. Get into the latest trade buzz and speculation on what's going to happen. Let's just do a quick recap of a couple minor moves that took place here since we last did a video discussing NHL trades. Some of these moves I felt were fairly minor and didn't really warrant a video on their own accord. But since we're talking about a lot of trade speculation, let's just, in case you missed it, there's a couple quick notes of things that just recently went down in the last couple of days. We saw the Oilers and Kings hook up for a trade, which saw the Edmonton Oilers trading forward Jussi Jokinen to the LA Kings for forward Mike Camilleri. Obviously, I think this is a pretty good deal for both teams. The Oilers were looking for some extra scoring up front. Jokinen really wasn't working out there. Camilleri does have a history of being a pretty decent scorer, and he's on a very team-friendly contract. You get the old veteran 1 year, $1 million deal. I believe he's 35 years old now, so I think he's still got enough gas left in the tank. Probably play this season, if not a couple more. So it's a fairly low-risk move for the Oilers. They get to trade a player who wasn't working out for them, really wasn't contributing at all, to a guy who could. I mean, he was playing half decent in LA. I believe he had 7 points, I think it was, in 14 or 15 games. So Camilleri, it's not that he was playing bad in LA. It's just that they were playing so well, he just wasn't getting a lot of ice time, and there's just too many other players ahead of him on the depth chart. We also saw a deal involving the Coyotes and the Lightning, a swap of goaltenders. Arizona ships out Louis Domingue to Tampa for getting Michael Leighton, who's been playing in the AHL. If you're not familiar with Leighton in the past, depending on what you've seen for hockey over the years, Leighton actually has a fair bit of NHL experience. A lot of it coming with the Philadelphia Flyers in the past. Alright, jumping into today's content, NHL trade buzz. There's all kinds of rumors floating around out there about deals that are being discussed and might be made. So let's dive into it. First up, we've got the Habs and Rangers. Every time I hear anything about trade rumors, these two teams seem to be linked together. The latest rumor has it that they're talking about a major swap that would change the face of each franchise. Now, obviously, there wasn't a lot of firm rumor about what pieces would be involved, but there was speculation that they were discussing a captain-for-captain deal that would see Pacioretty going to the Rangers and Ryan McDonagh coming to the Habs. As we've discussed on this channel before, I've done other videos discussing trade rumors that have linked the Habs and the Rangers. They've been seen scouting each other quite a bit this season, and there's been lots of speculation about the two general managers discussing various trades. So obviously I think the Rangers have had their eye on Pacioretty for a while, and obviously based on their play this season, the Habs definitely need help on the back end. So could that deal help both teams? Well, it's certainly possible, but at the same time, in my opinion, the Habs need scoring. They don't have enough of it, and Pacioretty's their top player in that regard. So in some senses this deal makes sense, and in others it doesn't. Obviously there would have to be several other pieces on both sides included to make this deal really beneficial for both clubs. Not really sure exactly whether the pieces were discussed, but it's been speculated earlier this year that the Rangers were willing to discuss a variety of players that they would consider moving for the right deal. Some of those players included Chris Kreider, Matt Zuccarello, Ryan McDonagh, just to name a few. Obviously, as we know, Rick Nash is a pending UFA and is probably not likely to return to New York. He'd have to sign for significantly cheaper value to stay, which is highly unlikely, and depending on how the Rangers season goes, we may see him moved at the deadline. I don't think he'd be included in a trade with the Habs. I don't see that making sense for either side. But there could be several other pieces here that are being discussed, and it could be a significant move if something like this were to go down. So leave me a comment down below. If the Habs and Rangers did a captain-for-captain deal, do you think that would be an even trade? And do you think it makes sense for either club? Next rumor we're going to discuss also involves the Montreal Canadiens, and this time we're talking about Alex Galchenyuk. Again, this trade speculation on this player is going to keep persisting, I think, until the deal gets done. I think it's pretty clear that the team and player probably could greatly benefit from each getting a fresh start, and I think at some point it's going to happen. It's just a matter of where when and what the package looks like. Obviously, as I mentioned in the prior segment, the Habs and Rangers have been discussing, appear to be discussing a mega deal. Whether or not it goes down or not, it's hard to say. It's quite possible that Alex Galchenyuk could be involved in something like that, as it was speculated before that the Rangers were quite interested in Galchenyuk as well. So it's hard to say it. But another team that's apparently interested in Galchenyuk would be the Anaheim Ducks. If you've been following the Ducks at all this year, obviously you know that they are really banged up, and they've lost a lot of man games due to injury with several top forwards. They could certainly use a top forward, especially somebody who can play the top 6 role and give them some scoring. Obviously, this might be a good opportunity for Galchenyuk to get a fresh start. It'd be good for the Ducks to get a top scoring forward, which could prove well for them. And in return, as we know, the Ducks have a really strong D-core, and Montreal might be able to get a pretty decent defenseman out of Anaheim in return for Galchenyuk. So that's a rumor that you should certainly keep your eye on. Wouldn't completely shock me if something like that goes down. See Galchenyuk go to a West Coast team for a decent defenseman. Hard to say if that'll happen, but let me know your thoughts. You think that makes any sense either? But I think that one makes a lot of sense, both for the Habs and for the Ducks. The next set of rumors we're going to discuss involves the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's been well documented on this channel, as well as many others, that obviously the Leafs may have to consider trading players like Tyler Bozak and JVR since they're unrestricted free agents at the end of the year, and due to the raises they need to offer some of their young players, they may not be able to keep both players in the fold. I think out of the two, if Bozak's more likely to be traded sooner than later, but it's hard to really say how this is going to go. Now, Bozak talks have been linked to 2 or 3 other teams. A couple of teams mentioned from what I've been resourcing here is Carolina and Columbus. Obviously, those 2 teams could use a forward, and he would be the type of forward that would kind of make sense for those teams. At the same time, they also would have what the Leafs would covet in return, defense. The Leafs, if there's a hole on the Leafs roster, clearly improving their back end would probably go a long way to making them a stronger, more legitimate contender. So could they swap Bozak for a defenseman? I think it's more than likely that it could happen. I'm not sure what quality of defenseman that player would fetch. I'm thinking Bozak would probably get him a defenseman that would probably be a second pair. I think that's probably fair to say. The Leafs may have to also include another one of their prospects. They have many of them that are not getting a lot of playing time yet and are still developing. So they could package maybe Bozak with a prospect for maybe a second pair in defenseman, and maybe they could put a guy like Ron Hainsey down to the third pair, which I think would make a lot more sense and make their team overall stronger. So let me know, what do you think of that deal? Do you think Bozak's going to be traded this year, or do you think he's likely to return? Personally, I think he's going to be traded. Now, when it comes to James Van Riemsdyk, that's another issue altogether. As much as a lot of people seem to be convinced that the Leafs are going to trade this guy, you know what? I'm not convinced as of yet. He is one of the best goal scorers in this league. You know, obviously scoring is up this year, but for the last number of years, you know, to get a 30 to 40 goal scorer is not an easy task to do. You don't see these guys shopped around because when they perform at that level, teams tend to want to keep them. Obviously, JVR is a player who can still contribute at a high level. I think he can still be a 30 goal scorer. He's having a pretty good season. Right now they have him at a pretty valuable team-friendly contract. There's no doubt that regardless of where he goes, he's going to get a raise. You know, there's speculation that he might be willing to take a bit of a discount to stay in Toronto. But the question is how much of a discount are we talking about? Obviously they have contracts that they need to iron out for William Nylander, Mitch Marner, and Austin Matthews. Nylander's is probably going to come first, followed by Marner, and then Matthews. They could, they can start discussing that this summer, but they could potentially have Nylander or Marner done prior to see where things are going to go from there. But let me know, do you think JVR is going to be traded? There's been all kinds of speculation about him, and I think JVR would be a much better bet to land them a bigger name defenseman if that's what they're looking for. But the problem is based on the trade rumors that I've been hearing and reading online, I don't really think there's many big name defensemen that are really on the market. If they're going to get a defenseman, it's more than likely going to be a second pair defenseman. So I think it's more likely we see a guy like Bozak possibly get packaged with a prospect to bring that player back. Also been reported by guys like Bob McKenzie and Pierre LeBrun that there's several teams looking for a forward. I believe they listed as many as 10 different teams. There wasn't too many speculation or rumors floating around about teams linked to specific teams or players that are trying to make a deal. Just that there's many teams, upwards of 8 to 10, that are looking for a forward. Most of them ideally Anywhere, I mean, there's different needs out there depending on the team. Anywhere from a top 6 to a bottom 6 to fill things out, and they just kind of build on their depth as the season goes along. The only rumor that I really heard that was a little bit more specific was that the Ottawa Senators were apparently, even though they made the deal for Matt Duchene, and they said that they're done for now, they'd still like to add another NHL forward just to increase their depth going forward as we get deeper into the season. Obviously, it's good to have extra guys around, especially due to injuries and whatnot. And if you get into a long playoff run, all these guys are likely going to be needed. But the one player that apparently they had their eye on was in Arizona. They were apparently looking at Dylan Strome. Obviously, Strome hasn't played the greatest in the NHL so far. He's spent a fair bit of time in the minors. I believe he's in their minor league affiliate right now. So I'm not really sure if he's a great player for the Senators. I think more than anything, at one point he was a blue chip prospect. Still could be considered that to a degree, with a lot of potential. And maybe the Senators are thinking they can get him for a pretty cheap, low risk move and see if they can develop him into an NHL forward. A couple other minor moves. I think it's fair to say that the Calgary Flames and the Pittsburgh Penguins are both looking for goaltenders. Obviously, they both have pretty good starting goaltenders. Mike Smith has played well for Calgary, but currently it just suffered an injury. And right now it's unclear how long he's going to be out of the lineup. Eddie Lack has proven to be incredibly unreliable this year and has completely lost the confidence of his coach, I believe. So I really think they'd like to get another guy there to kind of back up Smith. I just don't see Lack working out, and I wouldn't be shocked at some point here soon if they can figure something out to put him on waivers. Right now they've got Gillies up from the minors, and Gillies has potential to be a decent goalie, but he's not NHL ready, and they clearly would like to give him a year of seasoning in the American League before they give him a shot to really be a full-time backup in the NHL. Right now there's just not a lot of goalies on the market, so it's a tough position to fill when you're in a position of need. You kind of have to go with what's out there. Obviously, the Penguins recently, not too long ago, put Antti Niemi on waivers. He's since made his way around the league, bouncing around. And right now they have their youngster backing up Matt Murray. Matt Murray's going to definitely play majority of the games, but I think they would definitely like a more NHL experienced goaltender. Don't think it has to be a big name by any means, but they need somebody who they can feel comfortable playing, anywhere at least another, 10 to 15 games this year. They need to take the load off Murray. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button. If there's any other trades or rumors that you've been hearing about, make sure you leave some comments down below so we can discuss it. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button in the middle of your screen so you can keep watching Top Shelf Hockey.